Well, thank you very much for joining us. Mike Smith is here right now. He's Executive Director of the AIDS Emergency Fund. And what I'm hearing from Mike is you're going to be seeing posters like this, right, Mike?
You are. It's part of our Pennies program.
Yeah, and the Pennies program. But I notice there's a pile of bills down here in that picture also. We're not just taking pennies, right?
We're not just taking pennies. The Pennies program actually started 25 years ago in a bar on Polk Street raising money for people with AIDS.
Yeah.
And a little bit of change here and there added up over time, and a penny's just not what it used to be, so
That's true.
we're trying to encourage people to put dollars in the jars.
Nothing is what it used to be, right?
That's right.
Okay, one of the things that we don't hear as much about is AIDS, because it's going off the headlines.
It has.
But it's still a major problem.
It is. Every year in San Francisco, there are more people than the year before living with HIV. You wouldn't think it because we hear so much good news about prevention,
right,
and people medically are doing much better. But the fact still remains there are about 15,000 people in San Francisco, low-income people living with HIV, trying to make ends meet. And our job at AIDS Emergency Fund is to help them pay their bills.
Is it a lack of understanding about this, about the problem? I mean, younger people coming in from other areas, they're not as educated in that particular area?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a combination of things. I think for many people in the gay community, it's been years and years of the same prevention message, and over time that wears down, and you need to constantly be reinvesting in that sort of messaging, and that costs money these days.
Okay, the cost of staying alive if you've got AIDS is huge.
It is. The medicines are very expensive. It's quite a burden on the whole society, and so anything we can do to get the word out there and keep AIDS on the agenda will decrease the number of people who get infected.
Yeah. Okay, the fund, is it just going to be in this?
We do all sorts of community-based fundraising all year long, but the Pennies campaign, these jars have been out around in restaurants and retail stores for about 25 years. We're moving into schools. This campaign that we're talking about here is actually going into classrooms and teaching kids about philanthropy and about helping people take care of people when they're sick, and put some pennies in the jar. We've had several schools that started competitions between the schools to see who could raise the most change, and it really adds up.
Is there a sensitivity in going into the schools in terms of what parents might not feel comfortable explaining how someone gets AIDS?
Well, we don't necessarily go in with that sort of a prevention message where we're in those kind of details. If we're working with an elementary school, it's about learning to help take care of your neighbor and put some pennies in the jar. If it's a high school classroom, it's a little bit more sophisticated. But again, we're really there to help the school teach compassion more than necessarily be involved in specific prevention.
Okay, and the money itself would go where?
What our mission is to help people pay their bills when they're too sick to work. We have about 2,000 people a year who rely on us occasionally when they're behind with their rent or their utility bills and they're disabled by HIV. And we'll pay the bill for them and get them back on their feet so that they can continue to be part of the community.
Okay, so they come to you and they say, I can't pay my rent this month. I don't have enough money to buy food, whatever it is, and the money would come out of this emergency fund.
That's right.
Yeah. An emergency fund is just that. It's an emergency fund. What happens when that
Well, you know, there's a great safety network in this city of dozens of agencies, some with the city and some nonprofits, that provide a whole range of services for people with AIDS. You know, Open Hand provides meals to people who need them. We help in the way that we do. Shanti provides buddies. There is a safety net really out there so that someone may need one-time help from us, but we can often plug them into a whole world of supportive services so that they're able to continue to live well with HIV.
All right. So that is the general message. This is to help people. And when you see one of these posters, which I assume will be around in many places as you can be, it's for that fund.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Mike, nice to see you. We wish you
you
well, and we wish you well to the people who've contracted this really tough disease. Mike Smith has been our guest, and he is Executive Director of the AIDS Emergency Fund. Thank you very much for joining us.